Good evening. Welcome our cherished audience to today's edition of the Perissos Horizon chat room. I am Patricia Difamen Salakai, a communication and leadership coach, founder of Perissos Horizon. I'm a two-time self-published author of Fearless, Fabulous, and Flamboyant, and also Untangling That Tongue, No More Fear of Public Speaking. Please do look them up on Amazon Kindle and read all about it. Without much ado, I would like to go right ahead and introduce our guest for today. Our guest is joining us all the way from South Africa, and she is Ms. Vino Pillay. I met Vino through the founder of World Speech Day, and we have been in touch ever since. Just to share a little bit about her, she is passionate about the role of individuals and collaboration in the drive for implementing social change for good. Her commitment to active citizenship may best be illustrated in her role as South Africa's national ambassador and the executive director for World Speech Day South Africa. Vino has also in the past served as an ambassador for JCI, which is Junior Chamber International, and her membership in World Speech Day goes beyond just being the national ambassador for South Africa. She happens to be part of the Global Advisory Board. I would want Vino to tell us a bit about herself, especially as we can see, she is South African. And I want to find out from you, Vino, growing up in South Africa, how was that like? Could you share a little bit about your childhood experiences of apartheid, etc., in South Africa? Over to you.
Hi, Patricia. Thank you so much for having me today. Patricia, I think I'm going to take you a little bit further back than you had anticipated. You see, I am a fourth generation Indian in South Africa. My forefathers had come to South Africa as indentured laborers to work on the sugarcane plantations in KwaZulu-Natal. And it is for that reason that Indians in South Africa have been concentrated in the Durban, KwaZulu-Natal uh, region for many, many years. And then at the same time, my generation grew up during apartheid. And by design, we lived and schooled in an Indian area. By the time I enrolled at university, it was at a former Indian university. But the advantages of it is that, in our blissful ignorance as children, we played like any other child of any community. We played freely on the road with our friends. It was a tight-knit community. The mothers in the community looked after the children as though they were their own. You got disciplined in the same way as well. And, it helped us keep that vibrant culture of Indian culture alive because of living that way. That being said, as I grew up and as an adult, I took on a slightly different perspective because then I came to realize that actually I am a part of a melting pot of culture. South Africa is a nation which is a diverse, rich nation. And so, if anything, as proud as I am of my Indian heritage and my Indian roots, I'm equally as proud of being a South African and being a part of this melting pot.
Wow. In fact, just the description you gave, the fact that you are an Indian living in South Africa and you actually have gotten that sense of the welcoming atmosphere to the extent that you are able to school in an Indian school and you are able to experience what I mean, equates to those who are living in India because you are being given the same sort of upbringing with the same value system. So, from that perspective, how has your experience having heard or felt a little bit of apartheid, how has that experience shaped your mindset and your direction in life?
Okay, so like others of my generation, growing up during apartheid, it actually made us more driven to establish our place in South African society, economically and otherwise. I was fortunate to go to university during the cusp of apartheid and our newfound democracy. This then shaped my determination to contribute towards building a better South Africa, because at that point in time, what I had learned at university and what was being imparted to us was, everything that we needed to know for South Africa to progress and be and become a better country as a result of our newfound democracy. The second factor that shaped, or has influenced me and brought me to where I am now is that, recently or over a long period of time, I've had quite an interest in trying to trace back my roots to India to determine where my forefathers had come from. But what I had in that process of getting that information and finding out more about them, I came to understand and appreciate something else. You see, they left India, a place that was all too familiar to them, to come to South Africa for better economic prospects. But when they got here, they were instead met with, unfulfilled promises, and they were met with a life of hardship and a life of struggle. But what they did understand is that their way out of the economic circumstances was going to be purely through education. And it is this mindset that has resulted in my generation and the generation after me having access to comforts and opportunities that my forefathers could not have imagined. So, going back to my forefathers and when they had come here, what I realized is the best way to pay homage to them is for me to live the best life I can live as a South African and to contribute to South African society in whatever minuscule way is possible for me to do so. And then, Patricia, going a little further, in more recent years, or it's not necessarily more recent, but prior to my children being born, I was of the opinion that I needed to strive academically and achieve academically, that I would be climbing the corporate ladder and so on. And at that point in time, yes, I did complete my master's degree, and that was based on destination marketing and local economic development. It was about promoting places for tourism and business investment in order to create employment uh, and improve the economy. But in that time, I also worked at a blue chip company, and then I later worked at a foreign mission. But what happened was, life happens. The loss of my dad, the subsequent birth of my son, my daughter, as well as the ever-changing dynamics of family life, and needing to be or wanting to be a supportive wife to my husband. I then decided to replace the chase with a pursuit for a better quality of life and a life of balance. And then my decisions or my choices thereafter were influenced by this kind of thinking. So, Patricia, for me, empowerment is about being able to make a choice, whatever that choice is at whatever stage you are in your life. So, for me, at that point in time, it was that I decided I wanted to be a full time stay at home mom, to my two children. Prior to that, I outsourced the childcare and so on. But then I decided, wouldn't it be nice just for a period in time to be the sole source of comfort and influence? Whether that's a good thing, I don't know. My children will be able to answer that better than me. But that is what I did. Now,
I
I don't believe.
You have touched on a lot of very key things, but we will pick them one after the other, especially when you mentioned the issue of empowerment being that opportunity to make a choice. And so you can choose to set your priorities right, depending on that stage in
Yes,
life.
yes,
And having that sort of
yes.
chance to choose, I love that.
And I
And
just
so,
like to add, and I think it's
mhm,
very important to state that every woman has their own preferences and their own aspirations, and they need to do what works best for their current circumstances. And this is what I wanted for the time, and I understand that like I said, at different stages in our lives, we have different needs, and different women, have different needs at different times. But it's about being able to make that choice for what is good for you.
exactly. And I love the fact that you had the opportunity, as it were, to trace back to your roots and to experience how it was like for your forefathers being in India. And when they came to seek for what we would refer usually in Ghana as greener pastures in South Africa, they came to basically meet the era of apartheid. And they were sort of a bit disturbed by the failed promises. But they didn't just look on the promises that have been failing them in terms of their desire to be economically empowered. They chose, again, that empowerment, they chose to contribute towards the development of that society and to help build it up to the extent where it becomes a job creating opportunity for others. And that is, I think, really laudable. So that as citizens, we look at the problems that we have or see in our society and look for ways of bringing up solutions. So now somebody may be watching us and wondering what exactly is the meaning of being an active citizen? How would you explain active citizenship to that audience?
Okay, so Patricia, I'm going to give you a very brief explanation of active citizenship and global citizenship. So, with
Yes.
regard to active citizenship, it is about you being involved to bring about a change in your society or your community, or you could do this at a local, national, or international level. It is about exercising your right to vote, to speak out about important public matters. It's about you knowing your rights and your responsibilities, but at the same time, about you being a law abiding citizen. As an
Mm,
active citizen, you can engage with the community, with community structures such as residents associations and local councils, or you could volunteer. And volunteering is something you can do at a local level within your community. You could help one person, you could help 10 people, it doesn't matter. You could volunteer at a national or international level, but it would be with the desire to make a social impact. Then, with
with a
regard to global
desire.
citizenship, it is
Yeah.
not that.
Okay. So I just want to
So it's not that
let's
not.
take a little pause there and actually let that sink in for people to appreciate the difference that being an active citizen is actually sort of identifying ways within the society and aspects of the society that are going wrong and how you in your own small or big way can volunteer your services or work towards bringing about a positive change. Is that it?
Absolutely. That's
Okay,
exactly
now we go
that's
on to take
exactly what it is.
global.
That's
Yeah,
exactly.
so we'll go on and then take the global citizenship so we can strike the difference.
Sure. Sure. Okay, so with global citizenship, you are concerned with the world at large, understanding that you are a citizen of this entire world, and that you should therefore be concerned with making this world a more equal, a more fair, and a more sustainable place to live in. So perhaps if anyone really and truly wants to understand how this applies in this current time, you can look at the Global Citizen Campaign, where individuals are encouraged to take action and sign petitions, send emails to governments, and so on. And that's so that you can get movement at government level and at international level, so that funds can be directed to organizations, say, such as Gavi and other international organizations that seek to maybe conduct research or address critical issues concerning poverty and equality, as well as women's issues, health issues, issues pertaining to hunger. So I guess the best way for anyone to understand that could be if they were to maybe read up on the Global Citizen Campaign.
Yes, and would that also have a relationship with the issue of some petitions that we see currently making the rounds? You find out that people would want to effect certain changes in different areas of concern in the world, and you
Yeah.
find out from change.org people have created a movement where they're requiring signatories to bring about some change. Is
Absolutely.
that being part of global
Yes,
citizenship?
yes,
Okay. So we want,
absolutely. I'll give you a very recent example.
yes.
Just last week, we were asked to sign a petition, to urge the Prime Minister of Canada to pledge more funding towards the agricultural fund. This is because of, the issues of hunger becoming even more serious as a result of COVID, and that as a solution to this would be, it would be to promote agriculture. So agricultural farming and small businesses in that respect. And as a result of, I think it was about 36,000 people who signed this pledge, the Prime Minister of Canada pledged more funding than he had already done in the case from previously. So, and we saw a lot of this happening, every year. And not just through Global Citizen, there are a number of other organizations, as you said, like Change.org, that are actively pursuing, this avenue.
Great. And I know that you are the National Director of World Speech Day, and you have, over the period, as you said, made a choice to have more balance in your life and opt to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. But that has not stopped you from being an active citizen and contributing towards national development and even in the business area. You have, created a niche for yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about the niche you've created for yourself? And also, okay, sorry about the alarm. And
So,
also,
no,
simply let it tie into your digital marketing edge business.
okay. So exactly 10 years ago, by the time both my children were in school, it was time for me to think about, do I go back, rejoin the workforce, or what is it that I do? And I decided at that point in time that I wanted to make a positive impact on society, and I wanted to do this, by way of engaging with the nonprofit sector. And exactly 10 years ago, my journey started with the FIFA 2010 World Cup, where I was one of 2,000 volunteers out of about 16,000 applicants serving on the volunteer program. I was involved in media and VIP protocol. So this was indeed a proud moment for us as South Africans. If you consider that democracy started in 1994, and this was 2010. So we were at the height of our post democracy, the euphoria, and that was a wonderful opportunity But from that point onward, I then, reached out to other nonprofits and assisted them with their fundraising and marketing campaigns and functions and so on. And then it was at the end of 2014 when a long-standing family friend of ours, Dr. Eden Govender, visited South Africa, from New Zealand. And when I met him, he proposed the idea to me. And he said, don't you want to help nonprofit organizations with digital marketing, more specifically by way of offering them the technical skills that are necessary to acquire and manage the Google Ads grant? And Patricia, to say that I was technologically challenged, up until that point would be an understatement. But because I was determined to find, new and creative ways of impacting on the not-for-profit sector, I decided to give it a go. So I established a branch of Digital Marketing Edge, which he already has in New Zealand. So I set up an agency here in South Africa, and it's very small. But I helped about, I'd say about 15 nonprofits in over a period of about 2 to 3 years with the Google Ads grant. And, at that point in time, I had done all of my work pro bono. But then, and then at the same time, I joined Toastmasters. And in a nutshell, Patricia, my journey as a Toastmaster, when I completed my path, towards becoming a distinguished Toastmaster, what I decided at the end of it was that, the true measure of how much I've learned as a Toastmaster actually lies in how well I can take the skills I've acquired and implement it for the benefit of others, such as young children. And that's exactly what I started to do. And that's what brought me to World Speech Day, which is, what I'm focusing on. And now with World Speech
Whilst
Day,
I let you catch
at
your
the end of
breath,
20.
yes, whilst I let you catch your breath before going into the actual activities and projects of World Speech Day, I just want to let our viewers look at the fact that you mentioned determination. You had very little to no knowledge about technology and its application in the digital space of marketing, but you, I believe, went into some sort of coaching and training to learn how to actually work on this opportunity that had come your way. And that is how you went into the digital marketing edge, building that brand so that you can use it to also support nonprofits in terms of promoting their business activities, helping them identify ways that they can partner with Google through their Google brands. And so I hope for those who are listening and wondering why they should be active citizens, it is important that you establish a niche. You identify an area, a specific area in the society where there is a challenge, and find out ways in which you can contribute towards solving those challenges or resolving those problems. And wherever there is a will, there is a way. Once you are determined to make a positive change, you will be able to come into contact with people that are ready to support you, either through the technology or the resources, or connecting you with partners that will invest in your idea. And that is what I believe Vino had the opportunity to do. And as we can tell from her story, being a Toastmaster, she transferred the skills and knowledge that she gained from that to also go back and pay it forward by mentoring the youth. And she's going to tell us more about that aspect. So over to you, Vino. How beneficial has this been for the youth?
Patricia, I think. Okay, so I've got to say, I think this is you put it so perfectly. One of there are sacrifices that come with volunteering and doing work pro bono, but equally as well, there are opportunities that come with it. If you look at Toastmasters, it really doesn't cost you much to be to be a Toastmaster and to be on that path. Likewise, with the digital marketing skills, there are so many online opportunities. And yes, I was fortunate enough to go to Google South Africa for training as well. But when you seek opportunities or ways to learn, those opportunities show up. And this is why, going back to your question as to how this has been used to help youth. Well, just to give you an idea also, I serve as an ambassador for JCI Swane, which is actually Pretoria, and they are a group of young active citizens as well. So what I have now done is, through my role in JCI, my role in World Speech Day and Digital Marketing Edge, I find the one common factor is active citizenship. So this year is particularly significant to me as I'm now putting my passion for digital marketing, communication, leadership, and active citizenship into action. And in doing so, yes, I did create this niche for myself, but I'm extending this for the purpose of helping young people. And would you like me to maybe describe how I'm doing that through World Speech Day, or?
Yes, very much so. Because for those who are into non-profits and social entrepreneurs, like ourselves, who are all about simply effecting those positive changes in society, they would love to know the actual things that you're doing. So please go right ahead so somebody can identify specific areas in which they can also be active citizens.
All right. Okay. Well, let me start off with digital marketing edge first. So previously, my focus was on helping nonprofits through the Google Ads grant and campaigns. But more recently, I dabble in that for the purposes of World Speech Day and Digital Marketing Edge itself. But through Digital Marketing Edge, I still help nonprofits, but I do it by way of e-commerce, and that is to be able to sell merchandise for nonprofits online and through the print on demand model. So the purpose of this is that with no investment and no risk from the part of the nonprofit organization, we would sell products, and this would serve as another revenue stream for the nonprofit organization. And then what we also have is we've launched a Go Global platform for entrepreneurs. As you know, with the current situation with COVID, many businesses are struggling. And if, another way to be able to offer a service to them is to be able to sell their products online. And as you know, that is a growing trend. So that is the second way that we would help businesses, by selling their products online. And then, Patricia, that brings me to World Speech Day activities and how, active citizenship is intertwined into World Speech Day. So where previously, when I started off, World Speech Day was an annual event through the celebration of speeches event. Now, I've reached out to youth by including scholars from several schools, inviting them to speak at our event. And then even with JCI, Junior Chamber International, last year, they were given the platform predominantly. They were allocated, SDG themes, and they spoke on those themes. Now, those topics. Now, what was wonderful about that is you have the perspective of young children displaying their understanding of SDGs, and then you have the perspective of young professionals who give you a perspective from an academic and a professional view of sustainable development goals. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm talking about sustainable development goals. But in 2018, we celebrated the centenary celebrations birthday celebrations for Nelson Mandela. And in that year, the Global Citizen Festival and campaign, took place in South Africa. Well, the campaign is international, but, the festival itself took place here. And I was very active in it, as was many other South Africans. And it was a perfect opportunity for us to understand and learn about the Sustainable Development Goals. it was also an important way for us to learn about the pivotal role we play as ordinary South Africans in realizing these sustainable development goals. And as a result of that, I then decided, well, World Speech Day, we need to constantly look at ways to keep it fresh and relevant. So why not, hone in on the SDGs? And that was the reason why it was the focus of our event last year. But since then, I've also launched a UN SDG book club at the Swanee Leadership Foundation Homework Center, which is the Swanee Leadership Foundation is an organization that serves vulnerable communities in Swanee. And we meet with children once a month. We read books to them that are recommended by the United Nations and give them an explanation, of the SDGs. And the idea is that when our main event will be held this year, it has been postponed due to COVID. Some of the children will be able to present speeches on it. So that's where we
That is
involve
really
youth.
wonderful, because
And
a lot
then
of these, yes, as you catch your breath, I'll say that that is indeed really, I mean, it shows how you are transferring these skills into the youth at an early stage and helping them through your activities to also let being part of societal good become a part of their socialization and their nurturing. And so they are growing up through all these speech making events that are thematic with the Sustainable Development Goals. The children are at an early stage
absolutely.
already thinking about solutions to problems that they're seeing in the society and the world at large. And that is really commendable. I love that.
No, and that's a way of shaping them into active citizens from a very, very early age, demonstrating simple ways that they could, that they can take actions, that they can cultivate new, habits and so on that keep the environment, that keep the other, communities around them in mind. And we even, just to also add, in September last year, World Speech Day launched a competition. It's called the Unexpected Voices competition. And this was done in collaboration with the British Council. And for this purpose, we had children, some children in schools in South Africa did participate. And the scholars from our schools partnered with scholars from schools in the UK, and they jointly presented speeches. And the topics were either on climate change or on gender equality. So there are lots of new, very different ways to approach this, and
Yes.
it's wonderful
I will just
that
check
World Speech
through
Day.
if we have any questions from our audience. And I'm sure if not, we will still get a few questions coming up after the replay when people watch and post their questions. I'm sure you will get back to it and then address them individually. However, I want to sort of reiterate the fact that being an active citizen is part of our civil responsibility. And so it is so key that as citizens, we all begin to start looking for ways in which the little that we can do, whether it is through advocacy or training our youth, mentoring them, to start looking at ways in which they can build their societies, whether it is about sanitation, as you said, or it's about the SDG goals regarding rights to education, how they can eradicate poverty. So at an early stage, they begin to think of these other avenues where they will not just be spectators, as we heard recently in Ghana, our president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, charging us to be active citizens and not spectators. And that is one reason why Perissos Rise and Chatroom series has been birthed, giving us all opportunities to listen to the stories, the experiences, and ways in which individuals all over the world are taking charge and making a positive difference. Today in our studios, we have Vino Pillay, and she is the National Ambassador and Executive Director for World Speech Day South Africa. She has shared at length what she experienced right from the history, being a fourth generation Indian living in South Africa and growing up, how the lessons and experiences of her forefathers had changed and shaped her mindset for her to take charge. Being empowered, as she rightly explained, is simply about the choices, having the power to make choices. So, as citizens, we have the power to make a choice as to whether we are going to be part of the nation building or we are simply only going to look out for the problems and accuse our leaders or those in authority. Everyone has an opportunity to make a difference. And she is doing that through supporting the youth, mentoring them, and shaping their mindsets at that early stage. And as you were saying, Vino, the youth through the speeches and the essay competitions, all of these things is a way of nurturing and sowing that seed in their minds so that as they grow up, they become the next advocates of active citizenship. Am I right?
Absolutely, that's absolutely correct. And we see the difference with the children. You know, once you understand, you explain it to them, and you do it with them in fun ways, and they respond accordingly.
Wow, we have learned so much from you today. And this is where I would like to thank you so much for being in our studios. And I look forward to having you again. To our cherished viewers, for those who know and have been following me, they know that I'm also the local coordinator for World Speech Day Accra. And this year, our theme was on climate change, how we, in our little ways, can either implement the recycling, reuse, or reduce and help our climate be sustainable, stop pollution, limit the pollution in the atmosphere, etc. And so it has been a pleasure listening to Vino also tell us how they are doing it in South Africa. And I know a lot of Ghanaians love to go for holidays in Johannesburg and in Cape Verde, etc. It is time for them to know that there are active citizens that are building that society and making it look beautiful. We can also do same and make our countries beautiful. Wherever we are watching across the globe, you are being charged by our guest today, Vino Pillay, to be an active citizen and contribute towards your nation building. Please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where this live video will be available for replay. And also, please follow us on Instagram at DTM Patricia and at Perissos Horizon. Our host, that's the host account on YouTube is DTM Patricia Mensalakai, and then for Facebook is at Perissos Horizon. If you wish to be in our studios to share your own stories and experiences to inspire our audience and to charge and motivate us to identify ways in which we can fulfill our own God given purpose and contribute towards making the world a better place, please send me a message. Don't forget to share, tag, and like our video, and we hope to see you next time. Vino, I'll leave you to give us your last words.
Okay, Patricia, I believe if what you're doing is for the betterment of yourself, your family, and society at large, then you're doing the right thing, or you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I just want to say thank you to you for this opportunity. It was wonderful chatting to you, and it's been wonderful also getting to know you through WSD. And I look forward to amazing collaboration with you, especially with regard to our women's initiatives, which we are expanding on through WSD, through our
Yeah,
Generation Equality campaign, and so on. So, yes,
definitely.
thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. So we thank you all for joining. Please Do stick and stay. Perissos Horizon Chatroom series is here to give us more of such informative and experiential learnings. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Please keep sharing. Thank you. Bye, Vino.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, Patricia. Thank you.